Welcome back to MTG Kitchen. It's been quite the weekend for Modern, my favorite format, with GP Toronto wrapping up, topped out by Boggles and Burn, and the big announcement, Jace the Mind Sculptor and Bloodbraid Elf are unbanned. Over the last couple of weeks, the Modern format has shown off the diversity that many of its advocates have said is the best part of the format. While we don't know yet how this Bloodbraid Elf and Jace the Mind Sculptor unbanning is going to go, I have high hopes for the diversity staying up in the format. If you have a chance to check out your local GP or Grand Prix, I highly recommend you do it. I had a blast at GP Toronto. It was your classic long weekend. And with your classic long weekend, we're going to need your classic long weekend morning food. It's going to be a Bacon Mushroom Omelette. And with our Bacon Mushroom Omelette, my Modern deck of choice for the last week, Mardu Pyromancer. So what do you need for your Bacon Mushroom Omelette? You need bacon, mushrooms, mushroom, eggs, and that's about it. I'm going to throw in a little cheese. To cook your bacon, you want to put your strips into the cold pan and then put on the heat. This is the method that my Oma swears by. I have had problems with using too many mushrooms and or too much bacon, basically trying to fit too much into my omelet. You can also prepare your eggs. I'm going to whip them in this measuring cup. Some people like to add some milk or cheese right into their whipped eggs. So we've got some leftover cheese. I'm going to throw that in there. It's already been grated. A little bit of pepper. Tell you, you're going to need a bunch of coffee to get through this Jace hype. Alrighty, so our bacon's just about fully cooked. We're going to pull that out, let it rest on the side for a bit, and then cook our mushrooms in that bacon grease.
And mushrooms in. And it'll take about a minute, maybe two.
In the meantime, we're going to use my absolute favorite kitchen utensil, scissors, to chop up our bacon. Then we get our mushrooms off the heat.
And here go our eggs.
Toppings.
Try to get an even spread. Pull together.
Oh yeah. Look at that. And here is your bacon mushroom cheddar omelet. If you're feeling a little bit Tex-Mex, and today I am, you can have a side of some guacamole and maybe some salsa. Alright, let's talk Mardu Pyromancer. Now, the most popular version of this deck is leveraging the power of two creatures. Young Pyromancer is a 2/1 for 1 and a red that reads, whenever you play an instant or sorcery card, you get a 1/1 red elemental. This allows all of your instants and sorceries to generate you blockers, attackers, power. It's excellent. Then we've got Bedlam Reveler. Bedlam Reveler is a 3/4 for 6 red that reads, for each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard, reduce the cost of Bedlam Reveler by 1. He's got prowess. And when he comes into play, you discard your hand and draw 3 cards. Together, these 2 cards incentivize us to play a large portion of instants and sorceries. But this deck couldn't be Mardu Pyromancer without some white. And the most powerful white card in our deck is Lingering Souls. Although, the secret is, most of the time, we're just flashing it back. Bedlam Reveler allows us to dump Lingering Souls into the graveyard, but earlier in the game, we've got things like Faithless Looting to get it in there. Now, being from the family of what Reed Duke has called black mid-range decks, we're playing the suite of discard that is 4 Inquisition of Kozilek, 3 Thoughtseize, and 2 Collective Brutality. All of these cards allow us to get information on our opponent's hand and pick apart the pieces that they were hoping to lead into. Collective Brutality can double as discard, removal, and a little bit of life gain. But we've got another card in that same vein, and that's Kolaghan's Command. This is my favorite reason to play red and black. Kolaghan's Command is a shock, a shatter, a raise dead, and the discard effect on a Misery Charm. Yeah, there isn't really a simple instant speed discard spell. Our sweet suite of removal starts out with 2 copies of Fatal Push, 2 copies of Dreadbore. I substituted the Manamorphose out for a Dreadbore. Some people like Manamorphose, I like the Dreadbore, and 1 Terminate. Finally, we've got 3 more spicy cards. 1 copy of Liliana the Veil, just incredible for grinding out our opponents, and 2 copies of Blood Moon. The interesting thing about Blood Moon as we head to our sideboard is that oftentimes I found it effective to side out the Blood Moons after our opponent has seen it in game 1. Let's go through our lands real quick. We've got 4 copies of the fast land, Blackleaf Cliffs, 2 copies of Blood Crypt, 4 copies of Bloodstained Maya, 2 copies of Marsh Flats, and 2 copies of Arid Mesa, 1 Sacred Foundry, 3 mountains, and 2 swamps. One of the most interesting things about Mardu Pyromancer, or Mardu Midrange, is that you can balance between being a more aggressive deck that goes wide and attempts to go for the throat, or a more controlling deck that attempts to grind out your opponent with card advantage. Now, both of these will be utilized in different parts of the game against different decks. This is not a deck with a very linear path to victory like Burn, or Ad Nauseam, or Storm. This deck, you've got to pivot. You've got to pivot at the right time. I think that's the most exciting thing about playing mid-range for me. Okay, let's talk sideboard. First up, we've got a suite of spells to use against Tron and other decks where we're going after the lands. We've got 1 Ghost Quarter, 2 copies of Molten Rain, and 1 copy of Fulminator Mage. Fulminator Mage in particular is useful because you can recur it with Kolaghan's Command. But we need to keep our instant and sorcery count up, so it's unwise to probably play the full 3 copies, and instead we'll use those Molten Rains. 2 copies of Nile Spellbomb. That's going to wipe out your opponent's graveyard while cantripping, and it's very useful against any decks that are trying to leverage the graveyard with Snapcasters or flashback spells, and against decks like Dredge. 3 copies of Surgical Extraction. This is mostly for combo decks where our early game discard could get rid of one of their important pieces, and then we can remove it altogether from the rest of the deck. We've got additional 2 copies of Collective Brutality that'll finish out the playset. These are useful in all sorts of matchups. Burn, control decks where you're going to strip out their instants and sorceries. It really is a card that does a lot of work. 1 copy of Anger of the Gods. This is a good sweeper that additionally removes all the creatures that are killed by it from play. 1 copy of Liliana the Veil. If you need more grinding mid-range effects, this can definitely go in. 2 copies of Wear and Tear. Wear and Tear is both a shatter and a demystify, giving you the ability to destroy an artifact or an enchantment, or if you've got the mana to fuse it, both. Mardu Pyromancer is an absolute blast to play. It can be a little bit difficult sometimes, where you have to leverage your Thoughtseizes and Inquisition of Kozilek properly, and some Faceless Looting hands are very tricky. Sometimes it's not always clear what you do and don't want to discard, and the next turn can be very telling about whether or not you made the right choice. But I really enjoy playing this deck, and I think you will too. So that's it for MTG Kitchen today. I hope you enjoy your omelet, Mardu Pyromancer list, and if you excuse me, I've got an omelet, some coffee, and a lot of articles about Jace the Mind Sculptor and the modern metagame to go read.